Today, you guys are going to be learning about absolute value functions. In the future, you will learn about a specific equation about absolute value, but for the process of this lesson, you guys are just going to graph using a T-chart. Now, in the example up here, you guys can see that absolute value functions, they look like a V. So you need to find the point on your graph where that V begins and ends, and then that's how you will graph your function. So throughout this whole lesson, just make a T-chart until you find out where the V starts. So I'm going to start off with this first one, and I'm going to have just an X and a Y T-chart, like I said, and you're just going to plug in values. So I'm going to do -2, 0, and 2 to plug it in. So when I plug in -2 to X, that's the absolute value. So -2 becomes +2, so 2 plus 3 is 5. When I plug in 0, we get 3. And then when I plug in a +2 in for my absolute value, it stays as 2, plus 3 is another 5. So when I go ahead and graph this, I have my coordinates right there. So I go to -2 and up 5. I go to 0, 3, and then 2, +5. And you guys can see that's how that V begins and ends. Go ahead and do the next one on your own and check back with your answer. All right, so in the second example, I plugged in my usual -2, 0, and +2. However, when I got to that point, I only graphed this line, and I knew that my function looked like a V. That's how all absolute value functions look. So when I only graphed that, I couldn't find where the V started or began. So I plugged in this 4 in for X, and this is what showed me, hey, look, now the graph is going to go back up, and that's what gave me my V. So keep working in that T-chart to find out where the V is. All right, go ahead and do these 4 graphs with the T-charts. Check back to see how your answers look, and we'll see what happens. All right, so here are how your graphs should look. Now, as you are graphing, you might start to notice a couple things about the equations that can help you. So when you have these values outside of the absolute value at the end, it's kind of like your y-intercept. So this is -1. Hey, look, on the first example, we go to -1. Hey, this is +5. Hey, look, on our y-axis, we go to +5. Now, there are other things that we have to deal with. Now, if you're in the absolute value, whatever's inside of it goes left to right, but it's the opposite. So in this third example, it's +4. However, you end up going to the left for its opposite. And then when you have a number multiplying to the beginning of the absolute value, it's kind of like your slope. So this is negative, so now the V is opening down, and the slope is -1/2, so you go down 1/2, and that's your slope. So there are little hints to help you make sure that your graph's correct. All right, go ahead and try these 4 on your own and check back to see how your answers are. All right, so here are what your graph should look like for this section. Check them and see how you guys did. Finally, find out what the graphs of these 2 functions look like and check back to see your answer. All right, here are the 2 functions that you guys should have. Make sure you check them and see that your answers are correct.